like we are missing out a few, but yeah.
All right, so welcome all. It's good to see so many faces here. So during this call, the idea is to share thoughts around the conferences. It's going to be 2 of them. So we're going to give you a little insight into what we have thought. And then we're very curious of thoughts you might have to make sure that these conferences is as good as they possibly can get. So my name is Qwist, and I'm part of the Trains Nordic group that actually work with these 2 conferences. We have had a lot of Skype meetings and Facebook chats and Slack conversations in order to facilitate the ideas about this conference. The main idea of having this Nordic conference is that we see the principles are growing all over the world, and especially in the Nordic countries. We see that there's coming so many new practitioners and curious people to the community. And still we're running our own little show in each country, or maybe even in each city of our countries. So the conversation started between some Swedes and some Danes, and we tried to involve every country in the Nordic countries. So Christian Olsen, who's here somewhere, and Gunilla and Kenny, and I had some conversation about this conference. And then we added on Nico from Finland and Pierre from Sweden, and Tore, some I don't see yet, but from Norway. He's also part of the group. So what we're trying to do is build a 2 setup conference that's going to bring the principles to the world. We had the conversation about doing a big conference where we not only serve the community, but also put the principles into the world. We had this conversation that often when we do conferences, it's always the community. We are very much inward looking. We celebrate the principles. We celebrate Sydney. We do all these things that is only for the community. And it's a climate that's really difficult, inviting people that doesn't know the principles, and maybe they're caught up in their businesses or mental health, and everything else. And we wanted to create an atmosphere where we can actually invite people into it. So the idea is to network and bring the principles to the world. We talked about how fast can we get this moving, and when can we bring it into the world. And we kind of both want to do it now and all appreciate it tomorrow, but we're also making sure that the community could support the businesses. Yes, please mute when you get on. So what we're going to do is that we're going to do first a networking conference on March 23rd that is only for the community. And we're going to build upon inspirational keynotes and roundtable discussions that Gunilla is going to get into in a little while, and strengthen each other and the people we know, and we're going to do a network dinner and all. So when we do this network conference in March, it's to build a team that can lift a larger conference where we bring these principles to areas of interest. And we're going to do that this November. So we already have a dialogue with the conference place that we're going to do the network conference in Copenhagen called Park In. And in November, we has this 2-day conference set up where the first day is going to be for the community. So that would be kind of like the day we do here in March. It's building the community, it's collaborating, it's building network, it's inspiring each other, and also just having fun together as a community. But then day 2, we want to invite key stakeholders, and the areas that we've chosen, hope that I can remember them all. The areas we've chosen is we're going to talk about business, bringing the principles into businesses. We're going to talk about bringing the principles into the area of schools. We have talked about prisons, and we have talked about integration. And that was 4 areas, and I'm not sure if there's 5. Is there one more? One more? No, that's fine. All right, I cut them all. So those areas is where we want to start the conversation. And we know that there's going to be a lot of ideas from you guys to other places where we could take these conversations. But we also want to make sure that when we invite external guests to our conference, that we can accommodate their curiosity and describing the principles. So the idea is that we're going to do some keynote speaks in main room, and then do outbreak sessions for each area of these topics. And there's going to be principle-based practitioners, both leading the room, facilitating the conversation, but also facilitators and practitioners that has their specialty or their special interest in those areas to support the conversation in those breakout sessions. So that's kind of the idea. So it's actually a two-phase model. And that's why we hope that we can get as much people as possible to the network conference, because we actually see this as a bigger theme. We see it as building this network that can support growth and mental well-being and all the things that we know that we can give to the Nordic communities. So that's kind of the main idea. And we can fit in as many as you guys that's interested in working on this, and we're going to need keynote speakers, we're going to need facilitators, we're going to need ambassadors, we're going to need every people to reach out to make sure that we elevate this conversation. We haven't taken this conversation further than this first network conference in November. There's already been a conversation about making this a Nordic thing, and it can take turns in the countries. But just to keep it real, we have only talked about 2018, that we want to do this network conference in March, and we're going to do this big conference where we reach out to people in November, and that's it. There is this project team running it right now, but we want to expand that team and include as many as possible, and also transition leadership, making sure that as many as possible takes the lead in this process of bringing the principles out. So we're just the initiators, and there's room for anyone who wants to contribute to this process. I know that yesterday I received an email from some Norwegian practitioners saying that they were also working about a conference idea. So in order to make sure that we join forces, let's make sure that if some of you guys have ideas or work on projects, let's combine forces and make sure that we collaborate so that we don't compete against each other, but we help each other grow. We are, in this project team, very much focused on that. So that's kind of the introduction to these days, and we hope that you find it interesting and want to be part of this journey with us. So now I'll give the word to Gunilla so she can take us through the program.
All right, so now I hope I'm unmuted and hope you hear me, right? Thank you so much, Mats. I think you put it very well and you describe it very well as well. So I don't know really what to fill in. Actually, but I will give you some more details. And I just want also to emphasize a little bit, for me it is, because I think that it's the same for all of us, that we want to make impact, we want to do a positive change in our societies, in our cities, and I think we also face this same kind of problem, that we know there is one solution to help with this. So this is really something we want to do, to gather all different kind of stakeholders in the conference in November, like participants and stakeholders from both public and private sector. And there's a lot of them that I think it's important to invite. So then we reach out outside the community. But it's also very important for us, as Mats already said, to have our network within the Nordics as well. I think that is a great strength and a benefit for all of us, and for all of us that are working with the principles, but it's also a benefit and a great resource for the societies where we are living. So, a little bit more about the details about the program for the network conference. I will just rearrange my screen a little bit. We are thinking of gathering in Copenhagen at a nice hotel Park Inn, very close to the Copenhagen airport. And there will be registration and coffee between 9 and 9:50. So the conference will start at 10. And we will, of course, welcome you again to that conference. And then there will be 2 speakers before a little short break, and then 2 speakers more. And we want to have this morning to inspire you and to give you tools and to give some real cases, or what is what is people doing and how has the principle affect them and everything. And then we like to spend the afternoon to learn to know each other more and to exchange ideas and knowledge. And we want to have roundtable discussions. And so we will have different topics to discuss, and we're keen to know what kind of topics do you think is important and interesting for all of us. What would you like to talk about, or what would you like to learn more about? We would love to have that feedback from you. And if maybe you will join 2 or 3 roundtable discussions, depending on your interest and depending on the time. But in the end of the day, we will have a summary where each table will have presentation of the discussion on each table and summarize the bullets. So if you cannot join all the tables, you will have a summarization. And after the end of the conference, we think it would be nice to have a dinner together, and also maybe some drinks in the night to talk even more and learn to know each other. So I don't know, I asked my team here, was it something else we wanted to share or to say about the conference?
I think we're pretty good cover. I think that we could, after going over the prices, we could open up for questions and also comments on the topic. Yeah. So I could cover the finances. That's very seldom that I cover the finances, but this time I do, and I got them right here. So we've tried to make it as cheap as possible. We're so lucky that the Park Inn conference place, the hotel in Copenhagen, they work with the principals and were very nice to us and gave us good prices and help us in making this conference come to life. So the asking price for the conference, the list price, is 199 euros, covering participation, coffee, lunch buffet, cake, everything in relation to that day, you coming there and spending the day with us. But as tradition goes, we also have an early bird because it's really important for us to make sure that we get so many signed up for the conference as soon as possible. We would rather sign everybody up to the early bird price because then we know how to plan the conference. So if you in any way consider going, please use the early bird, save the money, and make sure that we know how many to expect on the day. The early bird price is 139 euros, still covering all the things relating to that day. Then we decided to pardon the dinner and the conference because we know that some people, they want to leave or get an early flight home or have other obligations. But the dinner, the network dinner, is a 2-course dinner with 2 drinks, one for the appetizer and one for the main course, and then coffee afterwards. And the price for that is 59 euros. When you go to the page and when you sign up, you can buy them combined or separated. There's also going to be a very special price on sleeping there if you want to stay and catch an early flight out. I don't have that price here, but we'll have that on the webpage so that you can see if you want to stay. So that's the way it's done, and it's a non-profit activity. So every money that we might make, we try to make it as cheap as possible, but it's, of course, if we get a huge number of attendees, there is going to be some money, and those money is going to be invested in the conference coming in November. We already got partners for sponsoring marketing materials for that conference, but just so you know that it's not about money, this conference, it's about building our network and our community. So every money made is going to be invested in the next conference, and hopefully that will be an investment in both making effort for change, but also making businesses in the Nordic countries. So that's what the finances say. So now that's kind of what we had in mind sharing with you people. So if you have questions or comments or inputs for topics, please raise your hand and we'll see if we can take you one by one.